I'd like to welcome everybody to REI USA Creative Finance and Subject to today. My name is William Tingle. I'm your instructor on Creative Finance Subject to for REI USA. And today we're going to talk about my favorite topic. It's a really simple program for wealth building, and I call it 12 Houses to Freedom. Now, the first 12 years of my investing, I was a transaction engineer. I would do a ton of marketing, and whatever leads came in, sort them out to what they were appropriate for. If they were low-end properties that were cheap and needed fixing, they may be a flip. If they were fully financed or had very little equity and the seller just wanted to get out from under the debt, they may be a sub-2 type deal. And I did that for about 12 years. And finally, when I moved out of the country, I discovered that going much simpler was the way to go. So we put together a program where we were buying one house a month, and that's all we did. We sold each one with seller financing. We bought them with subject to, and really realized that that was a really simple way to buy houses, to build wealth, and to create an incredible income that anyone could do, even if they had a job. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we call that the 12 Houses to Freedom. Now, I want to share some follow-up with you after this training. If this is something that interests you and you would like to learn more about it, you can go to the following free resources. First is our YouTube channel. We have several videos and real estate training tips that we share there on a weekly basis. And you can do that at youtube.com/sub2deal. Subscribe to our channel and get that free content. We also put out a weekly podcast called the Sub2Deal Show that you can go check out at podcast.sub2deals.com. And you can visit our website at sub2deals.com for free articles and resources and all types of things to really help you with your real estate investing business. So my first question to you today, what if I told you that you could start from today at literally zero, newbie, no houses, no residual income, that you could be making over $300,000 a year in 12 months by buying just one house a month? Now, I'm going to venture a guess that there's no one here that could not live or survive on $300,000 a year. So if you could do that and within 36 months be making over $600,000 a year, still only buying one house a month, would that be something that would interest you? Well, I'm going to guess it would. So today, we're going to explain to you just how to do that. And here's what we'll cover. First, what is subject to or sub to? There may be some of you here that aren't familiar with that concept. It's been around for a really long time. So that's the first thing that we're going to teach you. Then what is seller financing? Seller financing is a second component in how the 12 Houses to Freedom works. Why these two strategies combined let you triple your profits on every deal that you do. We're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the right house avatar and give some deal examples, as well as the 12 Houses to Freedom, rest of the information for you. So I want to share my screen here and show you guys exactly how this works. We'll go through the program. Let me tell you just a little bit first about me and who I am. I worked in the restaurant industry for over 20 years, okay? I ordered a Carlton Sheets course in July of 1999 and bought my first investment property in August of that year. Quit my job and went full-time 1 year later. We did that for about 10 years and then moved to Belize and semi-retired and started at that point buying the one houses a month. So that's kind of my background and what I've done. We've taken the deed to over 500 properties and bought about 600 in total so far. And just a little bit of background about me. So let's talk about the 12 Houses to Freedom, subject to and seller financing. So what is buying subject to? Well, when you buy a property subject to, you're purchasing it subject to the existing financing. I put very simply what that means is that any other liens or loans that are already on the property are going to stay there without any formal assumption on your part. The owner deeds the property to you, and you take the payment book and just start making the payments just like the former owner did. That's exactly how this works. It's a really, really simple process. You own the property and the seller still owns the loan. That's really the simplest way to describe it. So why would anyone sell their home subject to? Well, when I first got started, that's the first thing I wanted to know. Who in the world would be crazy enough to sell me their house and stay liable for the loan? Well, it turns out there are a lot of people that'll do that. People get a divorce. 50% of the people in the United States get a divorce each and every day. And a lot of times those people depend on two incomes to pay for the mortgage every month. So those people a lot of times will be open to selling. Number two, job transfer. VA loans are a big target of ours. We search for VA loans. Those people come in, they pay full price for a house. They get transferred. They can't afford to pay after they've moved. So a lot of times with no equity, they're enthusiastic about selling to you. A death in the family, tired landlords during COVID. That's really been a big deal with a lot of landlords not being able to get paid, and they just can't afford to continue to make the payments on that property. Job loss, people that lose their job and can't pay. Maybe they bought another home and need to sell. Maybe they're building a house and they don't want to have the worry of that second mortgage payment. The truth is there's many reasons, as there are sellers, why someone would do this. So there are sellers out there each and every day. In fact, we just got off the phone earlier this morning with one that we've been talking with for several weeks. And he said, send me the contract. I'm ready to do something. So it happens all the time. So once you understand subject to, and you've actually bought a property that way, now you have to sell it. And seller financing is how we like to do it. We're not landlords. We don't like to be landlords and have to be responsible for repairs and things. So we really like to sell our houses with seller financing. So what is seller financing? Well, when you seller finance a property for your buyer, you're really just being the bank. That's really all that you're doing. You'll sell your house to your buyer, collect a down payment, create a note for the amount that your buyer still owes you, and your buyer will make monthly payments to you until they either pay the amount owed off in full, sell the house to someone else, or refinance the house. And there are many different types of seller financing. Our favorite is contract for deed. That may be called an agreement for deed, an all-inclusive trust deed, where you are bond for deed, wraparound mortgage. Lease option can be considered a form of seller financing. Some people prefer that. We don't. And we don't because we find if I sell Joe, and I say sell because it's really not a sale. It is a lease with an option. If I sell Joe a house on a lease option, my experience tells me 80% of the time he's not going to exercise the option to buy the house. By contrast, if I sell the house on a contract for deed, which is a true sale, probably 90% or more of those people are going to eventually take this thing out and refinance and take me out of that loan. So for that reason, we like to sell with seller financing. So anyway, choose your poison. How to triple your profit from every single deal you do. And creative finance is really the key to making that happen. I'll give you an example here. I had a student approach me a couple of months ago with a deal. And they said, William, we've got somebody here that wants to sell me their house for the loan balance of $140. The house is probably worth $180 with about $10,000 and just some cosmetic stuff. It needs new kitchen countertops, a little bit of paint and some things like that. So just some really minor fix up. Now, the seller's motivation is the fact that They're elderly. They've already bought another house in Florida. They want to get moved. And they just don't want to have to mess around with fixing this house up and then listing it. But they are willing to just walk away and let me take over the payments. Now I'm thinking that I'm going to fix the house up, so I'll have 150 in it, and then I'll either list it with an agent and pay a commission, or I'll sell it myself. And depending on whether I list it with an agent or I just sell it FSBO, I'll probably get around $20,000 in profit, maybe as low as 10, maybe as much as 30. It really just depends. And what I told my student was, listen, what if you could put that 10,000 into it, sell it for 195, get $20,000 down, so you put your 10,000 back in your pocket and an additional $10,000 profit. Structure this thing where you're getting around $500 a month in cash flow, and then get a $34,000 payday on the back end in about 3 years, giving you a total profit of $62,000 instead of between 10 and 30. Which would you take? And he said, man, I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to seller finance this place. And well, of course you are. It just doesn't make sense to give away all of that profit when you could make so much more in just a short period of time just by seller financing it. When you are the bank, you make money in 4 different ways. One, the down payment from your buyer. In the example I just gave, even though he put 10,000 into the house, he would get that back immediately, and an additional 10 that he could put in the HIP National Bank and go out and spend. The interest spread. Now, most of the loans that we take over these days are going to be in as low as 2.5%, up to around 3.5%. They're super low because interest rates on mortgages have been extremely low for the last several years. So that's typically what we're taking over. Now, the interest rate on our buyer's side is going to be somewhere between 6 and 9%, just depending on balancing affordability, the cash flow we want, and things like that. So that's another profit center. The difference between your buy and sell price, even though most of the houses that we buy have low equity, for example, on a typical $250,000 house, we're going to be taking over payments somewhere between $230,000 and $240,000, which is, for all practical purposes, zero equity. We're going to mark that house up between 8 and 10%. So if it's worth $250,000, we're going to sell it for somewhere between $270,000 to $275,000. Okay. And in a rapidly appreciating market, marking a house up 8 to 10% is not dishonest. If I called 5 appraisers, one of them would appraise that at that price for me. So that difference, and then the back end payday, because when you factor all these things in, the interest spread, the difference in the buy and sell, every month on this same $250,000 property, your buyer is probably going to get $50 a month in principal pay down, but you're going to get $100 to $150. So it's almost like the buyer putting money in a bank account for you for 3 years. And then when they get new financing, you'll get that back end payoff. Now, I reference 3 years a lot because in the 12 Houses to Freedom plan, we try to set our buyers up to either sell the house or refinance within 36 months. Because you can have the worst credit in the world today, and if you make constant efforts to improve it over the next 36 months, working to get judgments or liens or credit report issues taken off or pay off debt and do those things, you can get your credit where it needs to be in 36 months. And the way we get this done is by making sure that our buyers are enrolled in some sort of credit repair program to educate them and help them get those things done. And then working with a mortgage broker who will stay in contact with them to make sure that they're ready to refinance. So let's talk for just a little bit about the 12 Houses to Freedom and exactly how that works. Our perfect property avatar. And when I talk about a perfect property avatar, what I'm saying is this is the typical house that we like. We actually seek these out, whether we're skipping or pulling lists from PropStream or on Zillow. We're going to filter and try to find this type of house. Minimum 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Anything smaller than that is too small for a growing family. We want them to be able to stay in the house for just a few years to get things done. Less than 10 years old. This is probably the most difficult. These next two are the most difficult to find enough houses to generate leads. Less than 10 years old and no HOA. More and more places have HOAs. We don't like HOAs because they have too much control over your property, the rules, what you can do, what you can't do, and they can change a rule like that just by enough people voting at a meeting. So they can raise your HOA dues. I'll give you a really good example. When I lived in Georgia, I had about a dozen houses in the largest HOA in the state. There were 1,400 homes in that HOA in varying price ranges. And through the years, I had accumulated about a dozen of them out there. And they decided right before I sold everything and moved, they decided that they wanted to pave the whole subdivision. And since they were privately owned, that had to be paid for by the homeowners. So what they did was issue an assessment to every homeowner, and that was going to cost about $7,000 per homeowner, which, do the math real quick, I owned a dozen houses. It was going to cost me close to $100,000 in assessments to repave in that HOA. And they decided to do that and ultimately did. But by then we had liquidated everything because I moved. But that's just a good example of how it can cost you. HOAs can cost you. The less than 10 years old, the reason we like that is because in a lot of cases, there's a 10-year builder's warranty. So a lot of the major systems are still under warranty. And plus the fact that electrical, plumbing is all up to code. There probably won't need to be a roof replaced anytime soon for the 3 or 4 years that we have it before we turn it. The AC is probably still in really good condition. So, because we don't like to do rehabs, everything we buy is remote now, and we just don't like to manage that sort of thing. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a house in good condition. Typically in a suburban area, no more than 20-30 minutes away from metro, because people will make that drive every day without an issue normally. And then the last thing is crucial: fixed rate long-term financing. We don't like balloon notes. We don't like adjustable rate loans. We want long-term predictable cash flow. Now, while we set our buyers up to purchase in 36 months, there are going to be the occasional, 10% or so that don't. So we want to make sure that we don't have to worry about our payment going up significantly over the next few years were those people not to buy. So we like long-term fixed, which fortunately most loans are. Here's an example of some of the deals that I'm talking about and the ones that we do today. One of our more recent ones, Centurion Place. This lady actually called us off a bandit sign. So let me tell you, a lot of people will say bandit signs don't work, don't use them. They're very inexpensive. I've got a price for my students. They get bandit signs for $1 a piece, and you can either put them out yourself or pay somebody about $1.50 a piece to do it. But very inexpensive marketing. You can control how many you put out. You can put them out on Fridays, take them up on Sundays if you're worried about code enforcement. But this lady actually called us off a bandit sign. We took over the payments on her property. $192,000 was her balance. The property was worth probably $215,000 or $220,000. Our payment on the loan, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, was $921,000. We sold that house for $229,000. Again, marked it up. I don't even think we marked this one up 8%. We got a $20,000 down payment, and our buyer's payments to us were $1,376 a month, with cash flow of $455 a month. Now, if our buyer does come through in 36 months and pay us off, our total profit on that deal will be almost $63,000. And that's just an example of what I'm talking about. Now, one of the things that we do is do mailings to soon to expire MLS listings. And when I call them soon to expire, I'm talking about listings that have been in the MLS for sale for 90 days or more. We don't contact these people directly. We send a simple postcard that just says, hey, I notice your house has been for sale for a while. without selling. We buy houses. We'd love to buy yours. We can close within 7 days. Give us a call if you really need to sell. Now, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get to the people that really need to sell. Maybe they've moved out of the state. Maybe they're starting foreclosure and it just hasn't been published yet. We're really digging to find the gold in that list. This was a 21-piece mailer. These mailers won't be very big. I literally spent $10 mailing this thing. And the guy called me up. He had been transferred a few months before. And the reason his house hadn't sold was because it put buyers off a little bit. They wanted their kids to stay in school until school was out. So even though it was listed, they couldn't, the new buyers wouldn't be able to close on it for a couple of months. So that doesn't work for a lot of people. There were just some things in the listing that made it unattractive. But ultimately, we wound up giving this guy some certainty. We got it under contract. We would wait it out until they moved. We bought it for $172,000. We gave $10,000 to the seller because he had equity in the property. So we took over the payments at $162,000 with payments of $880,000. We sold it for $229,000 with $20,000 down and cash flow of $500 a month. So our total profit on this property should be around $70,000 if our buyer stays for 3 years and pays us. Here's a really good example of no equity. Okay. No equity, no problem. Now, this lead came from an app that a guy that did some contracting work for me was using on his phone. And all I did was say, here, download this. You're out running around all the time. If you see a house that meet these criteria, snap a picture. That's all you got to do. And if I buy the house, I'll pay you $1,000. Okay. So he saw this house. It was empty. And he just took a picture of it because it was sitting empty. And I took a look at it, made contact with them, and found out that they had bought this house less than a year before. A married couple did. He was deployed. And while he was gone, she decided she didn't want to be married anymore. So they had never even moved in the house. She was supposed to move in. She decided just to stay with her mother. There were a few boxes in the house, but the house was literally in like new condition. They agreed to sign it over to me, and here's how the numbers work. We bought this house. It was worth about $120,000. We bought it for a balance of $117,000. So no equity, there's nothing there. 4.25% interest, 1 year into a 30-year term. Our payments were $577 a month. We sold it with seller financing for $135,000, again, marking it up about 7%. Our buyer paid us $10,000 down, and we financed $125,000 at 9% on a 40-year note. Now, our standard way to operate is to finance on a 40-year note. It's perfectly legal to do that. In fact, some banks are starting to do 40-year notes. Our buyer's payments are $964 a month. That gives us $387 a month in cash flow. And if our buyer does the 36-month deal like they should, our back end payoff should be around $13,000. So what did we make on a no equity deal, or what will we make if this works out as we expect it to? $10,000 up front. The house needed absolutely nothing. Okay. We paid nothing to the seller. They were just glad to get rid of it. We'll make $14,000 in cash flow, 36 months at $387, and a $13,000 back end. Now, how in the world did we create that back end? Well, it was between the markup in the price and that difference in interest rate that I told you guys about earlier. Our interest rate's 4.25%, and our buyers is 9%. So they're putting that money in that bank account for us every single month. So our total expected profit on an absolute no equity deal is around $37,000. So not too shabby. So let's talk about how the numbers work on the 12 Houses to Freedom program. Let's really break this thing down. And for doing this exercise, we're going to have a house avatar. Okay. We're going to have a house. Every house you buy is not going to be worth $250,000 with a $240,000 loan balance. but we have to have something to work with. So that's the one we're going to use, because most often that's the type that we're looking at. So that's going to be a $250,000 house with a $240,000 balance. Now, what does that mean? It means that if Joe Seller has a house worth $250 and he owes $240 and he listed it for $250, he would have a $10,000 spread. Now, the typical house in the United States today, between realtor fees, closing costs, holding time, and everything else, runs between 8 and 10% cost to sell. So let's say it's 10% on 250, it's $25,000. Joe only has $10,000 in equity. And what does that mean? That means he's going to have to write a check at closing to sell his house, to pay the balance of those realtor fees, closing costs, and everything else, of $15,000. Now, maybe he's in the Army and he doesn't have that kind of money. Maybe he bought this house a year ago on a VA loan and he can't afford that scenario, or he's getting a divorce and he doesn't have the money. What are his options? To sell FSBO? Okay, well, maybe that'll work. But the bottom line here is, if he has to pay $15,000 out of pocket to sell his house, and I approach him and say, listen, Joe, I'll take your house as it is. You won't have to come out of pocket at all, and maybe even give him a couple of $1,000s to move. Is that a better deal for him? You bet. And that's why people will do this. So we're buying this house. Our principal interest payment is $1,077. Taxes and insurance are $300 a month. So our total PITI is $1,377. The average rental rate on this $250,000 house is about $1,600 a month. Now, we would sell this house. Remember, we're going to mark it up generally 8 to 10%, but we're going low on this one. We're going to sell it for $269 and collect $25,000 down. We typically ask for around 10% as a down payment, and most times can get that. We'll finance the balance of $244 at 7% interest for 40 years. So our principal and interest payment for our buyer is $1,516. We're going to add taxes and insurance of $300 a month, which is what we pay. We simply mirror that, and that's going to give our buyer a total payment of $1,816 a month, giving us $439 a month in cash flow. Now, note that we always look to see what rental rates are, because typically we can get somewhere between $100 and $200 a month more as far as a house payment from a buyer than what the rental rate is. Between tax savings and everything else, they have an effective rent rate of about the same of what it would have been before. Okay, so in 36 months, we owe $226,103 on this house with our principal pay down. In 36 months, our buyer owes $240,402. So that's going to give us a back end payday of $14,300 on these properties. Remember, if every one we buy, if this is a cookie cutter thing, this is how it's going to work. So our profit centers on this $250,000 house are, first, a $25,000 down payment. Now, that's assuming that we didn't have to give our seller any money and the house was in really good shape. Now, if we had to clean the carpets, landscape, give the seller $3,000 or $4,000, then our upfront profit's only about $20,000. But you see, it all works. We'll make $439 a month per month for 36 months, giving us almost $16,000 in profit. And then we've got the $14,000 profit back in. So what is our profit on a zero equity deal like this? Over $55,000. Okay. Is that good enough for everybody here on a zero equity deal? I'm going to guess it probably is. So here's how the 36-month plan works. Year one, we'll collect $300,000 in down payments. Now remember, guys, this is just buying one house a month. If everyone is a $250,000 house, we collect $10,000, excuse me, a 10% down payment, $25,000. That's going to put $300,000 in the bank account. And these are all things you can do while working a full-time job. Because remember, you're only buying one house a month. Now, suppose you had some expenses. We talked about that a second ago. You gave the seller a couple $1,000. You spent a little bit of money on the house. So your down payment profit's only $20,000 a deal. Okay. So you only make $240 up front. Is that still okay? Well, absolutely it is. Your cash flow over $34,000. That's 12 houses, 1 month, one per month each month. So you're collecting 78 payments over the course of 12 months. So your total yearly profit that first year is $334,000. That's buying 1 house a month, subject to no equity, and selling it with seller financing. So we move on to year 2. You're still buying 1 house a month, same scenario. 300,000 up front. Your cash flow goes up because you've got those first houses giving you that cash flow, and now you're adding another 12 to the mix. So your cash flow is up to almost 100,000 a year. Total yearly profit, almost 400,000. You move on to year 3, still 1 house a month. What are you putting in the bank? 300,000. Now your cash flow is up to 160,000 a year because you've got the first 24 houses paying you every month all year long. You've got your next 12 houses paying you this total of 160, 674. So your yearly profit at the end of year 3 is 460,000. Now, if you've done this properly and you've screened your buyers correctly and you've made them enroll in credit repair and you've set them up where they all have a bank account and they're drafting the payments to you, so that's all really trackable, then by year 4, that's when things really get interesting. Okay. On year 4, the 37th month starts the first houses seeing monthly cash outs because of buyers refinancing the property. This will add $14,300 per month. Remember that back end? That's going to add $14,300 per month to your income as back end profit from these deals. Okay. And this is how it looks. So rolling into year 4, you're still buying 1 house a month. You're collecting $300,000 in down payments. You're collecting $189,000 in cash flow. Okay. Your total yearly profit, and then you're collecting the back end as well. Your total profit for the year at that point is going to be over 660 per year. And I'm going to guess there's nobody in here that couldn't make it or survive on $660,000 a year. Okay. Now, the 12 houses to freedom, this is what we teach in our coaching group in detail on how to do this stuff, how to buy subject to, how to sell with seller financing, and all the steps involved. This is just a 40,000 foot overview of really how it works, but it really is just a simple process. This is all that I have done for the last 11 years. I haven't deviated from this at all. I don't do flips. I don't do rehabs. We buy 1 or 2 houses a month and sell those with seller financing. Now, if you're in New York, California, you're not going to buy a $250,000 house. More than likely, you're going to buy a $750,000 house or $1 million house. And the really good news about that is that you're going to make a lot more money. All the numbers are going to go up. The spreads are going to go up. The interest rate, the back end, the down payments are all going to go up significantly. Can you do it in those markets? Absolutely, you can. Remember that these numbers will not be exact. Every house you buy will not be worth exactly $250,000. But just get out there, talk to some sellers, make it work. It's a really simple plan. Whether you work a full-time job, this is something you can work in with a few hours a week. If you don't have a job, you can certainly make enough money to live on and have a life and see your kids and go to the ball games and do all those things. That's what really motivated me to get started in real estate, was just the fact that I worked 70 hours a week. I didn't have a lot of time with my family. But this really is, there are moving parts to sub 2. It's not super complicated. You can do it. So my question to you is, will you take action today to achieve financial freedom? Before I got on this call this morning, I was on a call with my coaching students, the live seller calls, the cold calling ninjas, where we actually call sellers and talk to them and let all the students hear that. My question to you is today, I guess depending on where you are, it's 11:35 here Pacific, so it's of course later all across the country. What have you done today to generate a lead, to buy a house, to create financial wealth? So I want to share some information with you guys again, some places that you can find me. If you have any questions or I can help you in any way, our website, sub2deals.com. We have products there. We also have tons of free articles and resources that won't cost you anything. You can come over and take a look. Sub2 Podcast. That is where we have our weekly podcast that we do. We talk to students that are doing deals. We talk to experts in the field of real estate investing and creative real estate investing. So join us there and subscribe at our YouTube channel. We deliver a lot of free content there each and every week, and we would be glad to help you with that. So I'm going to stop the screen share and see if we've got any questions. Looks like we might have a couple here, and be glad to take those from you. No, it doesn't look like we have any questions, just a comment. I appreciate that. So it looks like we've got a few people in here. If you guys have any questions about what we talked about, you can enter those in the chat, and I'll be glad to take them. Okay, if you guys don't have any questions, I guess we'll let you guys get back to your day. I just wanted to share that with you today about the 12 houses to freedom. Like I said, it's a really simple concept. We've been doing that for about 11 years, and it's just let us lead a mobile lifestyle. We travel place to place 2 or 3 months at a time. We're actually in Oregon right now through the holidays, and we'll be heading to Arizona. But anyway, love to see y'all on the website or on the podcast. Let's see, Michelle has a question. Michelle, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. We'll continue to listen and learn more. Thank you. Sure. Well, listen, hey, you're in a high price market out there. What's the median priced home, Michelle, in San Francisco? Probably 700,000, 800,000. Okay. Yep. Interested in this process, don't know the first step you should take, live in the ATL. Hey, listen, I got started in Macon, Georgia, believe it or not. I bought my Carlton Sheets course while I lived in Macon when I was working in the restaurant business. And we bought hundreds of houses. We were buying 3 to 5 houses a month there for the first 10 years. Most of those foreclosures, the good thing about that, Trina, am I saying that right? Is there a ton of investors there and a lot of investment associations and clubs that can help you. Getting started, the first thing that you need to know, Renee, okay, Trinae, okay, is that right? Okay. The first thing that you need to get to know, if you're from Atlanta and you know it pretty well, operate in areas that you know the prices and the values. You have to be careful in places like Atlanta. Macon's the same as far as neighborhoods, because there's some neighborhoods there you probably wouldn't want to buy in. But stay in good neighborhoods, safe neighborhoods, places you would want to live with your family. And then target homes there. If you're using a tool like PropStream is the best. It'll give you values. It'll tell you what the homeowner paid for the house, what they owe on it, what their monthly payments are, and then pull a list from there. We like VA lists because a lot of times those people bought a house, paid full price, financed it all, and get transferred in a year, 2 years. They don't have any equity to speak of, and they're very motivated because they're in a hurry to sell. Go after foreclosures because the foreclosure process is so fast in Georgia. Gosh, 30 days, 28 days. Getting out. The first notice of a foreclosure in Georgia is a publication in the newspaper on first Saturday of the month. This is the first Saturday of the month. So get out there, get your newspaper, look at the foreclosures. Look for which ones are deals, older security deeds, houses that have a little bit of equity, nice homes in nice neighborhoods. Go knock on the door and say, hey, my name's Trinae, and I noticed the bank is trying to take your house from you. Is there anything I can do to help? And if help, it means calling the bank and trying to negotiate a deal for them, do it. If help means, yeah, we'd really like to sell it and get out of here, then, take over the payments, see what you can do, see how far they are behind. A lot of banks are open to loan modifications right now. They'll put the amount owed on the back end and let you just take up the payments. So, that's always a possibility. So people in foreclosure, typically in Georgia, don't owe a whole lot of money because the foreclosure process is so fast. And when you sell these houses with seller financing, it's like I told you earlier, even if you have to put some cash into them, it's very short, it's very transactional. So if I have to pay $5,000 to make up some back payments, I'm going to get a down payment from somebody very quickly. So that always works out real well for you. Know the values, start making contact with sellers. If you don't have leads, you're not really doing it. You can do all the studying that you want to, but you got to make contact with sellers. And then find somebody that'll JV with you. Like I said, Atlanta's full of investors. Find someone more experienced that you can trust and say, listen, I'll work on leads. You help me close them. We'll split the deal, because half of something's better than all of nothing. So that's how you get started until you can learn. Yeah, I know, Michelle, those houses out there are super high. Yeah. In the beginning stages of my wholesaling, need a lot of information. I've never done a ton of wholesaling, and this is why. You can make a lot of money, but wholesaling is like having a high paid job. So I don't really, I've done some accidental wholesale stuff on things before. People call me about houses that I wasn't interested in keeping, so I would wholesale that stuff. Just moved here. I live in Douglasville. Yep, know where Douglasville's at. I use PropStream. I guess I'm on the right path. Absolutely, you are. PropStream is fantastic. And we have Burton teach inside our coaching group. He can make PropStream bark like a dog. He actually works for PropStream, but he also does some things with me on Goat Talk, which is the Facebook Live that we do. We do a Facebook Live and YouTube Live every Thursday morning. And you can find that on the YouTube channel. So if you go to sub2deals.com/YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and you can see all that stuff. We'll bring him on again sometime soon and show you guys. PropStream is incredible. Do you JV on deals with your students? Absolutely, I do, Michelle. But I only JV with students. If you're interested in our coaching program, put that in here. You can go take a look at it. We JV with our students. We have about a dozen different training calls and meetings a month, and just a ton of content in there. We've got a relatively small group. There are about 150 in there, and it's just a really good group of people. So come on over. We'll have you fill out a form if you got a deal, and we'll work it with you. Sure will. So appreciate you guys being on today, and yeah, you're quite welcome. If you guys have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer. Any sub-2 creative finance, anything like that, I'll be glad to answer those for you before we wrap this up today. But yeah, if you're in Georgia, how do you get info to join? If you go to the sub2dealscoach.com page, it'll tell you exactly how to join us. It'll tell you all the benefits of the coaching group, all the things that we include, the JV partnership, the forums, the masterminds. We have 3 yearly in-person mastermind meetings at different locations around the U.S. And you don't have to pay extra to come to those. It's all part of your membership, but those are multi-day masterminds where we all get together. We talk about what's working in our market, what's not working, and all of that stuff. So yeah. Hey, listen, glad to have you here at REI USA. REI USA is a great value for all the training that you get. I'm glad to see you guys here taking advantage of the calls. And don't forget that if you watch a certain number of webinars, you win prizes here. And one of the prizes is a one-on-one call with me. So watch webinars, learn stuff, and book a phone call with me. So, all right, guys. If any more questions, be glad to help. Get off here today. If you're in Georgia, go out and pull that newspaper and start talking to some foreclosure people. Because I tell you what, in Georgia, the foreclosure notice is in the paper on the first Saturday of the month, and then the foreclosure happens the first Tuesday of the following month. They don't play around. There ain't no 6 months or 1 year like you get in Florida or New York and all those states. They don't play around. They foreclose on you. So, okay, guys, if that's it, you guys go out and have a fantastic Saturday. I know, right? but that's really, it's a good thing for investors, because sellers don't have time to drag you around. It's like, listen, the foreclosure's in 3 weeks. Okay. We got to do something here. I can close it. Do you want to let it go to the bank, or you want a couple of thousand in your pocket? Don't lose it all. Let me help you out here. So, like I said, we bought 3 to 5 a month, and gosh, 80% of them were foreclosures, because I was knocking on doors. I'd be out at daylight picking up that newspaper. I'd go through them, mark the ones I was interested in. I mailed a postcard to everything, and that 10 or so every month that really looked good, I was knocking on the door at daylight. Hey, how you doing? My name's William. I understand the bank's trying to take your house away, and I'm here today to see what I can do to help. And you first approach with a heart to help, because people get in trouble like that, and they don't answer the phone. That's another reason I just knocked on the door. They don't answer the phone. They avoid the bank's calls, and the bank just wants to get paid. They don't want to foreclose. They don't want to take that house. But sometimes, especially today, when so many people are behind because of COVID, and there's so many forbearances, banks are very open to working with people if they'll just keep the lines of communication open. But people stick their head in the sand. They don't want to talk to people they owe money to. And I guarantee you, the bank with the house isn't the only person chasing them down. They're probably not making their car payment. There's probably other bills that they owe. So they don't answer the phone. They don't talk to anybody. And when you go, listen, let's make a call to the bank and see what we can do. And you call the bank and you say, listen, Joe got behind for this reason, but he can pay now. Can you put what he owes on the back end and let him keep his house? A lot of times they'll say yes. And I'm telling you, you just became a hero to that homeowner. Okay. And just check in with them from time to time after that. You can bet that if they ever get in trouble again, or when they decide to sell their house, they're going to call you because you helped them. Okay. So approach people first with a heart to help. If they don't want help, they don't want to keep their house, they can't afford to keep their house, then you move into, well, we can buy your house mode, and show them how that works. Okay. But always try to help out of the gate whenever you can, because karma's real. Okay. But if you're going to build a long-term business and you plan on doing stuff, Macon was an easy market because it's a big town, but it's not too big. And people get to know who you are. Throw some magnetics on your car, put out some bandit signs from time to time, wear a baseball cap or a shirt that says "We Buy Houses." And before long, when you go into Home Depot for something, you'll hear somebody say, "That's the We Buy Houses man." Okay, that's when you know you've done your marketing right. So anyway, you can help a lot of people and make a ton of money doing it. So I'm telling you, if it wasn't for Carlton Sheets and real estate, I'd still be flipping hamburgers somewhere. So anyhow, okay, guys, y'all have a great day. You can reach me at william@sub2deals.com. You find me on Facebook and friend me. I'm easy to find, and I'll help you guys if you have any questions. So y'all have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you next month. We're here every first Saturday of the month. Just remember, it's the day the foreclosures come out in Georgia. We're on here at 2 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 2 p.m. Eastern. I think so. I'm in the Pacific time zone now. It's killing me. But anyway, y'all have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.